In the news tonight, Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour addresses a news conference on his government's plan to advance Jordan's economy over the next 10 years in response to His Majesty's directives laid out in March. The president of Iraqi Kurdistan is appealing to Germany for weapons to help Kurdish fighters battling ISIS militants, saying foreign powers must find a way to cut off the group's funding. And some normalcy returns to Gaza as economists say 60% of the enclave's businesses were wiped out when Israel destroyed more than 450 factories and dozens of small and medium enterprises. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour presented the media with his government's proposed plan for Jordan's economy covering the next 10 years in response to His Majesty the King's directives in March this year. At a news conference alongside the Minister of Planning and International Cooperation and Minister of State for Media Affairs, Mansour said what is being proposed is not a plan but a vision for what Jordan will look like in 10 years. He conceded it would be difficult to envisage a picture of Jordan 10 years down the road due to a volatile political situation in the region and the effect of that on the economy, namely the fluctuation in oil prices. However, and to ensure a realistic projection, Mansour said there will be a periodic assessments of programs at 3-year intervals, especially in light of the fact Jordan is surrounded by conflicts in Iraq, Syria and Palestine, the end of which is unclear. 3 obstacles continue to impede economic growth, said Mansour: energy, water and agricultural land. In addition to 2 persistent dilemmas, the presence of large numbers of refugees in Jordan whose destiny is unknown, and a capricious market that can be detrimental to exports and imports. On legislative amendments, Mansour listed 2 key amendments, one relating to the Independent Election Commission, giving it a broader mandate to include overseeing municipal elections, and the second relating to the establishment of a Ministry of Defense. On the Gaza crisis, and in response to some voices urging the government to recall Jordan's ambassador in Israel, Mansour said the ambassador's presence serves numerous interests, including the affairs of Jordanian prisoners in Israeli jails. He said accusing Jordan of not doing enough to Gaza is unfair, adding that the kingdom has never and will not hesitate to defend Palestine and its people. Mansour opened the news conference with remarks on the passing of Lebanese journalist Mazen Diab. He expressed regret over the death of Diab, who was murdered in his home in Amman yesterday. Mansour conveyed his condolences to the family of Diab, as well as to the entire Arab media. Jordan has welcomed the UN Security Council's unanimously adopted resolution to suppress the threat of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant and al-Nusra Front in the region. Jordan's Deputy UN Ambassador Mahmoud Hammoud told the UN Security Council last night that Jordan adopts a United Kingdom-led resolution aiming to combat the terrorist threat of ISIS. Hammoud also condemned what he called the barbarous actions of the extremist groups and their supporters, noting that international solidarity is needed to fight them. The Deputy UN Ambassador affirmed that Jordan would continue to promote regional and international cooperation to fight terrorism. Jordan sent a military aircraft carrying tons of medical and relief supplies, potable water and blankets to Erbil in Iraq's Kurdistan. The aid supplies was sent upon His Majesty the King's orders and is part of Jordan's humanitarian efforts towards the people in Kurdistan. The president of Iraqi Kurdistan is appealing to Germany for weapons to help Kurdish fighters battling ISIS militants. He said foreign powers must find a way to cut off the group's funding. Barzani told Germany's Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier during his visit to Iraq, the Kurds need more than the humanitarian aid that Germany began sending yesterday to support people forced to flee their homes. Speaking in Erbil, Steinmeier held out the possibility of sending more than humanitarian help and said Germany should go to the limits of what is politically and legally doable to help the Kurds, adding that each EU government must decide what to send. Steinmeier described IS as a terrorist murder gang and said he feared the last anchors of stability in Iraq could fall. Meanwhile, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC released footage filmed less than a week after Islamic State fighters swept into Sinjar in northern Iraq. The footage shows members of the Yazidi minority ethnic group setting up camp under bridges, in schools and in buildings under construction in Huk. Yazidis say they scrambled to find water and food for their children before climbing into their vehicles and rushing to surrounding mountains. According to Iraq's human rights minister, Islamic State militants have killed at least 500 members of Iraq's Yazidis during their offensive in the north. And over to Gaza, where the people continue to enjoy some quietness as a temporary ceasefire between Hamas and Israel is holding for a third day today. Some took advantage of the lull in the fighting to restock food at the market. Israel's war on Gaza has badly damaged Gaza's infrastructure. Most of the 1.8 million population have no electricity for most of the day after Israel bombed Gaza's only power station, and electricity lines providing the enclave with Israeli power were damaged during fighting. Officials said businesses affected by the fighting are in the food, farming, building materials and plastics sectors. The war has also added to the enclave's economic hardship, as the jobless number, which stood at 40% before the war, has soared with the destruction of businesses. Gaza Chamber of Commerce estimates that 500 businesses have been struck by Israeli bombs and shells since fighting began on July 8. Economists said 60% of Gaza's businesses were wiped out when Israel destroyed more than 450 factories and dozens of small and medium businesses.
Targeting the factories affects negatively the Palestinian economy. This will increase unemployment, so it may be more than 50% unemployment. More than 30,000 workers will be unemployed after the factories were destroyed. Before the war, we used to talk about 41% unemployment. There were 180,000 unemployed in Gaza. But now there will 210,000 unemployed. This will cause an increase in poverty from 38% to 60%.
In Cairo, meanwhile, Osama Hamdan, Hamas head of foreign affairs, and offers made to the Palestinian delegations do not meet the aspirations of the people. In remarks on his official Facebook page, he wrote today, Israel must accept the demands of the Palestinian people or face a long war. Demands presented by Hamas include lifting a blockade on Gaza and reducing movement restrictions on 1.8 million residents. Pope Francis met more than 4,000 monks and nuns in South Korea and urged them to dedicate their lives to the needy and to stay on the right path. He also met with 150 representatives of South Korean Catholic laity and encouraged them to continue working for human development, stressing on the importance of the family. The Catholic Church has been growing rapidly in South Korea, doubling in the past 25 years to about 11% of the population. The Pope began his 5-day visit to South Korea a couple of days ago, the first by a pontiff to Asia since 1999. And with selfies and hugs, Pope Francis reached out to the Asian youth. Thousands of cheering young people gave the Pope an ecstatic welcome at a rally in the shrine of Solomo, the site of a shrine to Korea's first priest, where the 6th Asian Youth Day has been taking place.
또 내일 모레 저희와 함께 폐막 미사를 해 주실 것입니다. 자, 교황님을 다시 뵐 때까지 건강하실 수 있도록 우리 다시 한번 감사의 박수 부탁드립니다.
For 47 years, Ecuadorian anchorman Alfonso Espinosa read the headlines and the top news. But now he made the headlines for setting a new Guinness record for the longest career in broadcast news. 72-year-old Espinosa had broken the world record earlier in May, but was officially certified 2 days ago on air for having spent a total of 47 years and 83 days behind the news desk. Espinosa has become the face of news in Ecuador, and during the 5 decades in TV, his career saw him covering 14 presidents, 2 dictators, and several coups. Espinosa is setting his sights on the 50-year milestone, meaning no plans to retire soon.
Bueno, pues tengo que agradecer infinitamente por sobre todo este respaldo maravilloso de esta familia, como dice Darío, de aquí, de Ecuavisa, que ha estado siguiendo el proceso. De alguna manera me ha sorprendido. Yo sabía que la gestión...
And I thought 17 years was a long time. In honor of former U.S. President Bill Clinton's upcoming birthday on the 19th, the Clinton Foundation has released a clever House of Cards-inspired video for him. The video features actor Kevin Spacey in a phone call to Hillary Clinton from the Oval Office, pretending he's Bill Clinton, and fishes around for what she is getting him for his special day.
My birthday's coming up, right?
Yes, I know, Bill.
Do you know what you're getting me yet?
I told you, this is a very personal decision that I will make when I'm ready.
You know what, darling? I'd really love one of those elephants you're always talking about saving, you know, for the backyard in Chappaqua.
Don't you think that could be a little dangerous for our dogs?
Well, what about a baby elephant? Look, we have to talk about this baby named for Chelsea. Now, I was thinking, if it's a boy, we should encourage them to name him Frank. And if it's a girl, what do you think about Claire?
Well, I was actually thinking of pushing for the name Kevin if it's a boy. Kevin, will you please just sign my husband's birthday card already?
Slovenia's Simon Šiplak won the 3rd stage of the Arctic Race of Norway with a sprint against Dutchman Steven Kourisvik, who becomes the overall leader. Jonathan Hivert of France finished 3rd. The riders rode around the northern coast of Norway during the 132-kilometer stage, coping again with cold winds and rain. Tomorrow's 4th and final stage consists of 5 laps around Norway's capital of the High North, 165 kilometers in all. The World Championship in tank biathlon ended today with a 1-2 finish for home team Russia. Teams from 12 countries competed in obstacle courses, showcasing deft maneuvering and tests of shooting accuracy. The tanks had to hit targets both on the ground and in the air using a main gun and a machine gun. All teams used T-72 machines except for China, which used the T-96. Russia took 1st and 2nd place, followed by Kazakhstan in 3rd. This was the first time Russia held the World Championship, though in previous years it has taken the first prize. And finally, for a quick look at the weather forecast, fair tonight in hilly areas with a prevalence of normal summer conditions across the kingdom and the winds northwesterly moderate. Tomorrow, normal summer continues in most regions with high temperatures in the Badia and Aqaba. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to fresh. In the Gulf of Aqaba, a high of 40 degrees Celsius is in the forecast with light to fresh winds and calm seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour addresses a news conference on his government's plan to advance Jordan's economy over the next 10 years in response to His Majesty's directives laid out in March. The president of Iraqi Kurdistan is appealing to Germany for weapons to help Kurdish fighters battling ISIS militants, saying foreign powers must find a way to cut off the group's funding. And some normalcy returns to Gaza as economists say 60% of the enclave's businesses were wiped out when Israel destroyed more than 450 factories and dozens of small and medium enterprises. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Z.Toukan. Thank you for joining us.